Ladies and gentlemen, it was supposed to be the most epic of all introductions, the comeback kid. He's back doing his live streams, but he started the wrong stream. I started tomorrow's stream rather than today's. I'm so rusty, can only apologize. I hope everyone is now back with me. I'm sorry about that. It's been an absolute disaster. I knew it was going to be a shit show. I knew it was going to be an absolute disaster. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What an absolute muppet. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back though. We are back now. And it is time. What a afternoon. What a time to bring back into the streaming world on the news that Arnaut Danjuma is officially, here we go. Tottenham hijacked him. We stole him last minute under the noses of the Toffees. How does that make them feel? They're in the mud. We're going to talk all about that. Plus, we're going to go through all the other stuff that we need to talk about today with regard Daniel Levy and ENIC. We're going to get some of the Paratici stuff off our chests as a group. We're going to figure out the best way forward. I've got two guests to bring in. But before we do that, I'm just going to start by saying, ladies and gentlemen, the Spurs Talk Show, it starts, I think, right now. Lovely touch from him though. Harry Kane, Lucas Moura, can you do something, please? Last chance, Matt Doherty! Oh, you shite! There could be from the dead to the don't fuck it up now, don't win it! Let's go last chance! Stephen Bergwijn through! Win it, Stephen! Come on! Yes! He's won it! He has won it! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh! We did it! Yo, check this out. I need to update that video. That video's from last season. Bergwijn's not even a member of the squad anymore. But maybe, just maybe, we're about to get our new version. It's going to be Steven Bergwijn Mark II in Arnaut Danjuma. Or Danjuma. I'm not sure how you say his last name. Is it like a YJ or is it like a hard J? I don't know. We're going to figure it out together. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be back with you. It's been a while. I've been streaming. I've been everywhere else. I was losing my mind last night on the Irish Hotspur, for example, during the game against Fulham. I'm a stressful watcher of football. It has to be said. But there will be none of that today. It's very calm, mature. People I've got joining us are going to get us through the next 2 hours together with you. Let me bring one of them in right now. The other one's running late. He's stuck in traffic. He'll be here when he's here. It's all good. Ladies and gentlemen, please, but actually, before I bring him in, let me ask you one favor. Hit the like button. I forgot to ask. Hit the like button on your way in. Do a man a favor. Get the likes up, people. Really appreciate it. 90 of you already in the house. It's fantastic. It's fantastic to see it. Let me bring in this man. You remember him. He's the Irish man from across the Emerald Isle who hangs around with celebrities. When he's not doing that, he's making films. He's just like part of a world that I don't understand, but he's an incredibly talented man. He puts across his views on Tottenham incredibly eloquently, and we love him for it. Welcome him back to the show, a regular fan favourite for the team. It's Adam William Cahill.
Wonderful introduction as always, Sean. Wonderful introduction. Thanks for having me back, bro. Great to see you.
No problem, mate.
Like
you sound a little bit quiet.
Do I? Suddenly we were trying to get these technical issues sorted at the beginning. Am I okay now?
You're better now, mate. You're better now. Well, let me know, guys, in the comments if he's better. How you doing? You well?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm really, really good. All the better for having you back on the show again, man. Because like it's been. I know you've been on the Irish Hotspur a lot, and that's great. It's been good that you've still been active and stuff. But being back on the Spurs Talk Show, it's great to see you. And thank you for having me as always, man. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait, mate. Can't wait. Before we welcome everybody who's in the chat into the group to say hello, we have got the third man, the trifecta of calm, cool heads, and there's a lot of differing opinions about certain things in this trio today. So we're going to have hopefully a very mature, respectable conversation where we can figure out what's going on. You know him potentially from many streams, from the Irish Hotspur, from We Are Tottenham TV as the Joracle. I know him as the Joracle. So let's just call him what he is, shall we? Welcome to the show. It's Jory, the Joracle. How are you, Jory? You okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Wow, what an introduction. I hope I can live up to it.
You will, my man, you will. This isn't your debut on the show, is it?
I think on your show it is, yeah.
Really?
It's been a long time coming. I think your net issues started the week that we were supposed to do a stream together, I think. So
right,
yeah.
Okay. I've got a feeling that you came on once to diffuse a debate, a conversation. I think me and Kuva were going. I think it was back in the summer. Kuva and I were going. It was the thus far conversation. Were you a part of that one? Did you come on alongside Aditya? And
notorious.
I'm not sure.
No, it doesn't matter.
I got them separated now, but I kept confusing you and the Irish Hotspurs streams because I got so many Google accounts and I kept subscribing to different channels on different accounts and so on. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
I've got 100 of them as well. About 100 of my subscribers are just different versions of myself. You know, you got to get those numbers up somehow.
Exactly.
I jest. Before we get going, guys, we'll start off with the Danjuma, whatever his name is, news. We'll talk about him, look at his stats. We'll find out if he's the next. Is he Steven Bergwijn Mark II, or is there some talent there? And how's he going to fit in? Before we do, let me just fly through and say hello to the old regulars. We got SOF back in the house. How you doing, my man? Good to see you, buddy. It's been a while, buddy. It's been a while. I always see you in the comments. Louis in the house as well. Hello, Louis. Good to see you. Chris Agomba. Big up, Sean. Big up, mate. Love you, man. Love you. Aqua and Field Sports is here. Who is the Dutch guy? We have a Nickelodeon Everton. Oh, nicked off Everton. Okay. It's interesting that your predictive text changed that to Nickelodeon. How old are you, or what do you watch? Paul Longworth's in the house. What's happening, Paulie boy? Member of the team as well. Says big up, Shawnee boy. Big up, mate. Good to see you. Phil O's in the house. What's happening, Phil? Big up, Shawnee, Jory, and Adam. Hope you're all good. Danjuma, what do we think? I think it's good competition for Sonny and might give him the kick up the arse he needs. 100%, my man. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Let me see who else we got. These guys already said hello. We got Soren in the house. He's calling me a muppet for getting it wrong. Yeah, I know. I started the wrong stream. Such an absolute moron. I'm an absolute
proud, man.
Yeah, complete idiot. 3 for all. He's laughing. Well, good evening, mate. Good afternoon. Jacob's here as well, as is Ishak. What's happening, Ishak? Good to see you. Mark Cousins in the house. Lisa, what's happening, Lisa from Mexico? Good to see you. Hope you are well. She says it's good to see. We're looking forward to see Adam and Jory as well. Moon Doggy Dog, long-term member of the channel. He's back as well. He's saying, welcome back, mate. 7 months. You've been a member for 7 months. I feel like I owe you a lot of content to catch up on the last 2 months or so that I haven't been doing live streams. I can only apologize about that. Jimmy Hendricks is here as well. Good to see you, as is Daniel Sandoval. Elias is here. What's happening, Elias? Seriously, are we happy about the Danjuma deal? Which position will he strengthen for real? We'll talk about that. Mojo Matzi, what's happening, my man? Amir's in the house, member as well. Good to see you, Amir. Who else we've got? Let's go. Never a foul. Oh, we got Kaz, the Man United fan. Smash a like button. What's happening, Kaz? Good to see you, my man. And Daniel Hammett is in the house. Well, given how Son is playing this season, anyone on the left would be an upgrade right now, surely. Plus, Lucas is injured and Richarlison is struggling with fitness. I think it just helps add options. I concur. Danjuma. Is that how you say it, is it? I've seen lots of different ways. Coop's in the house. What's happening, Coop? Paul Mark in the house as well. Dark Sun G's in the house. What's happening, Dark? Appreciate that, my man. Thank you very much for the super chat. It's very cool to be good signing because Son, Danjuma, Kulu, Brian Hill, Richie, and Kane. So he's saying, yeah, okay. So you're giving up on the chances of signing Zaniolo then? I'm not entirely convinced it does mean that Zaniolo is off. I think likely it's going to be difficult to do both, but it's only a loan deal. I will talk about the Zaniolo deal because I've got some inside scoop from Danny Kiriakou that we can run through as well. Who else haven't I said hello to yet? Gary Wellsby's in the house. Good to see you, my man. Screw McDuck is here. Do we have a here we go? We do have a here we go, but also here we go him to Everton on Saturday. So here we go. It was here we don't go. Here we nearly went. And apparently now he's going to Tottenham. Ricky's in the house. Colin's in the house as well. Benny Boy Kaufman. What's happening? Member of the team. Good to see you, my man. Derek Smith is here, as is Steve G, Jethalal, Keith Edwards, Anthony Rose, Scott Hynam, Potato Attack, something. I'm not sure. He says, "Oh, he's coming across from Twitch. Didn't even know I had this on Twitch. I want to offer promotion for your channel. Oh, I'm not interested in that. Thank you." Cockeyed TV, Golden Cock. Good to see you, my man. Paddy Hartnett's here. Good to see you, buddy. Marius Sava, Big Boss Man, Peter Kip. Dark Sun G again says if we get Porro, we should go to a back four and we should go for a centre back, and a goalkeeper. 100%. Get those three done. The whole season, everything looks a lot different all of a sudden. Thank you again for the super chat, my man. It's really, really appreciate it. Very generous of you. Polio's in the house. Alex THFC's in the house. Is that Alex THFC? Is that Mr. Box Office, Alex? It might be. It might be, you know.
It is.
I think that's everybody. Martin, Colton, Dope, Bawadja Jr., Dope Boy Jr., and Rob Belch is in the house. Okay, guys, thank you everyone for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Let's get going. I'm going to bring up the screen just to show you that I'm not making up. I'm sure you all know this by now, but where am I? Here we go. Fabrizio Romano. He did drop this just now. Can you see the screen there, guys?
Yeah.
Danjuma, whatever, to Tottenham. Here we go. Deal agreed. Hijack completed after the player did medical tests and the media stuff as a new Everton signing last weekend. Loan deal agreed with Villarreal. He's on his way for the medical with Spurs. Boarding completed on a Turkish Airlines flight to London. So it doesn't look like there is any detail yet, guys, about whether there's an obligation to buy or an option to buy, whether it's just a straight loan for 6 months where we're paying some money towards Villarreal to get him out of the way. Let me know your thoughts. Let me start with you, Adam, mate. What do you know about the player? What do you think about the player? And go take it where you'd like, really.
Yeah, so I only know as much about the player as I've been able to research doing, the usual Googling and YouTubing. I got to say, like, just on the face of it, even if you knew nothing about the guy, he is, like, my immediate impression, as I was saying to you before, Sean, is a little bit of concern of the fact that we already had the best Dutch left wing forward on our team and we let him go. And my concern is not that we're getting Bergwijn 2.0, it's that we're getting bargain basement Bergwijn. And
really? Bergwijn 0.5?
I'd be concerned about that, especially when his highlight reel isn't actually anything to get excited about. You look at Nicolo Zaniolo's highlight reel and you're like, okay, the news you hear about him, the amount of injuries he gets and potential attitude problems. You look at his highlight reel and you go, yeah, but like there is a player in here. Whereas Danjuma, I'm like, is he one to really, really get excited over? Now, I know he's not coming to walk into the first team, and that's another concern as well. He isn't the kind of player who's going to immediately, like, he may displace Sonny now just so that we can get him rested and a little bit fearful so that he can get back to form. But is he going to come in and be a first team starter and completely displace Sonny permanently? I doubt it. I think Sonny is due at some stage to come back to his old self. I believe so.
Not part of the Son is cooked, Son is dead food.
Form is temporary, class is permanent. And it is just going to be a case of like he's going through a bad patch. It was literally only last season that he got the golden boot, but people have such recency bias. It's not funny. So like I think although I do agree with people that Son needs to be dropped and that's not happening. He needs it for his own good. But I don't think Son is it's not time to put him out to pasture just yet. But this new guy, I think, you know, we had. When we already had Bergwijn and let him go, unless I'm completely wrong, because again, I only know so much about the guy. If he were to come in and set the world on fire, it would be nothing short of a miracle. Because I think that in the Dutch team, you're still looking at Bergwijn as being their number one left wing forward. Why have we replaced one top European player with his understudy? And
slightly different type of player though, right? Like Bergwijn is kind of head down, driving with the ball. A little bit kind of headless chicken, whereas from what I've seen, I've done the Y Scout stuff.
He's a bit trickier.
He's got bags of pace, and he kind of hangs it off the left, and he likes to do a nutmeg. He's got a lot of like first touch flicks, and that actually annoys me about players when they overdo that stuff. Yeah, Richarlison does all that too much as well. But he seems very competent coming off the left. He's got a nice whip on him as well. You know, the stats around his assists are pretty handy. So, Jory, like, what's your? Oh, sorry, Adam. If you,
I'll literally just make the final point on that. Is literally just that it's just that, like, when you're thinking about, you know, if we want to try and compare ourselves to the big boys, which is what you need to do if you're going to compete with the big boys. Chelsea came in and gazumped Arsenal for Mudryk and hijacked their player. Which team did we decide to hijack? Everton, bottom of the table, just sacked their manager.
Yeah. I hear you. I definitely hear you on that one. Yeah, it's definitely like it's underwhelming, but is it not exciting, Jory? Like, is it something different, something to get a bit pumped up about, or?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm rejoicing because finally we hijacked somebody from somebody else, you know, and not getting hijacked, which we're usually the victims of this, not the perpetrators. So that's good. The other thing, I really know nothing about this guy, and I'm sure that he is fairly average, and I agree with Adam in terms of signings as a statement of ambition and stuff like that. But I just think like my perception of the board and ENIC and all of that is so low now that the fact that they're doing anything at this point is kind of a positive in my view, you know. And it also kind of maybe tells me that now that I've seen the team and Conte actually fight for the bats and fight for the places now the last two games, in my point of view, maybe I'm also now seeing our board kind of getting serious with the signings finally, and this Mexican standoff situation can get some happier resolution, you know. One thing that springs immediately to mind with me is because also there's news out that Newcastle has capturing Gordon. What I heard. So that means like the shit is really hitting the fan at Everton. So my first thought is, could we get Connor? Maybe that would be nice. I would be happy with that, you know. If we
do you think that's because Everton are Everton in financial trouble still? You know, I always use them as the kind of poster boy for mismanaged funds, you know.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, it seems to be plenty of money there. It's more like it's the financial. They went about it in a really bad way, so they got all these financial fair play problems. But also, it seems like they've decided to do a complete rebuild now. You know, after sacking Lambert. You know, so and I mean, it makes sense, and you know, sure, get whatever players out you can if that's what's going to happen. And now I think maybe it's more the players thinking I need to get off
ship.
Yeah, exactly, ship right away, you know. So but I'm fairly happy with something happening today. Like I said, I'm like this Mexican standoff for me seems to be resolving in a good manner. Even though I completely agree. You know, why are we selling Bergwijn when we then just go and get somebody in a similar role, maybe not identical, but Bergwijn was actually really, really good at what he does and so on, even though it didn't click at Tottenham. But my answer, once again, sorry guys, it's going to be a lot of this today, I'm sure, is like we sell him because the board wants, to sell somebody before they get somebody in and so on. And of course maybe some numbers with the squads and foreign players and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I would definitely feel better with Bergwijn for sure. Of course, it would have been good to have Bergwijn competing with Sonny the first part of this season, I think. So yeah.
Do you think it was a mistake to let Bergwijn go in the summer?
I mean, it wasn't a mistake if you go and then get like a first choice centre back for the money, or you fix some other problem permanently, and but we that's not what we do. We don't upgrade, unfortunately, or not lately.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, yes, I do think it's a mistake. Yeah.
Well, let's have a quick look. I haven't got his assists up here in front of me, but I can tell you that they weren't bad either. We can go into it in more detail, but just have a quick snapshot. He's in 175 games. He's got 60 goals, which is about, give or take, like it's different for each individual club that he's been at, but on average, he's scoring about a 0.4 goals per game record, something around that. So that I think to the comment in the tweet, a goal every 2.5 games, far better stats. Or what's this? What you got there, Adam, for us? I will do absolutely everything I can to keep Everton in this league. That's hilarious. When did he say that?
Maybe it means getting Tottenham to the relegation spot instead, right?
Yeah, 100%. Those media clips are all going to come out now, one after another. It's just going to be humiliating for everybody. But look, a goal every 2.5 games. I mean, how many goals did Steven Bergwijn ever score for Tottenham? Was it like less than 10 goals in his entire career at Tottenham? Right? I think far less than that. So, I see it as I understand. I take the point that Bergwijn is the number one choice for Holland in that in that position. Doesn't necessarily mean that that Danjuma is a downgrade. And I think that Bergwijn just didn't suit.
A good point you bring up there. I just want to jump in, Sean. Sorry, is because Bergwijn was kind of a touchy. Seemed like he had a very touchy temperament and maybe a little bit overgrown ego, which is typical Dutch players, by the way. And so that's not conducive to doing anything in a team sense, and certainly not something that Conte is a fan of. So
which one is more effective for a Conte system as well? It does have to be taken into account. That's absolutely sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a second. Let me just get through a couple of these super chats. Now, I do want to get your takes on it. Dark Sun G says, I think we will use Giovanni Lo Celso as part of this deal. It doesn't look like it's part of the deal initially. From what I can gather, it's just a straight loan for 6 months until the end of the season. But maybe if he does do well, if he does slot in and contribute to some goals and to some assists, then maybe there is that opportunity then to make the deal permanent and potentially then use Lo Celso as part of that as a make way. I did want to actually ask you guys, I'm probably jumping ahead, but seeing as the questions here, in a scenario where we're going to talk all about Conte in the future and Pochettino in a little while, but just to jump ahead for a second, in a scenario where you did see Pochettino come back through the door for next season or any other manager, do you think that there's any reprieve, any second bites at the cherry for any of the players that are out on loan at the moment? Tanguy and Ndombele, Lo Celso, Harry Winks, any of the other guys that are out there, Reguilon potentially? Or do you think that their days, like Pochettino or any other manager, just won't want them back at the club?
Reguilon potentially, given that I still think that if Reguilon was in the team now, he'd probably still be our best left wing back. He's miles beyond Sessegnon. And then we've seen Perisic have a pretty, I think Perisic was supposed to have been brought in to kind of help out the young lads and to give a dig out where he could, not to be our number one left wing back, but we need him playing all the time now because the others are so piss poor. If Reguilon was on the side, he'd be playing much more, even under Conte. I guess they fell out, and that's all that was. And then if it was Poch in particular, you may unfortunately see Ndombele get another bite of the cherry. I can't see any of the others kind of having an opportunity though. Just there's too much bad blood overall.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And Jory, what about yourself, mate? Can you see any kind of second chances or third chances?
Yeah, no, I agree. And like I would say the fact that it's a risk even in our minds with Potts kind of for me also speaks volumes about why Potts shouldn't come back at this moment. I want Potts to come back, but not while we have these kind of ownership issues and even with the same owners after a long-term stint for a guy like Antonio, then I would much more trust getting Potts back, because Potts proved at the time that he didn't manage to get the upper hand with Levy and all of that, and I don't see the point of seeing it again, especially after having a few bruising gigs like the Paris gig was for him, seemed to be, so I would want Potts to come in from a position of strength to in some way a new club with some changes in the culture, and then I would say then you just do your Potts thing, just build it from the ground. Let's do a project and build an amazing team like you did, so I don't see a reason why to
bring them back.
I mean, I would say I would be more inclined to accept Tanguy coming back on the Conte, because then I know, it's because Conte, I mean, if Conte was to make that decision, then I know that Tanguy is probably going to be in the right spot. But I do think, and I think the Napoli situation has kind of shown it, I do think of all the managers, Mourinho was the guy to get something out of him. He was the father type figure, the little bit of, I think Conte is too tough, and I think Potts is too much of a brother, and then you have the older father type in Mourinho, which is what a street kid like Tanguy clearly needs. So,
needed, 100%. For me personally, I listen. I don't mind Reggie coming back. I'd much rather Reggie be here right now than Ryan Sessegnon. I know that obviously next year he's a
better player for sure. I agree. But, yeah.
Maybe just not the same focus.
I mean, you have to wonder what was going on to piss Conte this much off, Because,
it was clear to me from within the first couple of weeks of seeing them last year at the start of 2022 that after every game, he would when we win games, Conte would go around and give high five and hugs to 10 of the players on the field. And if Reguilon was on the field, he basically ignored him or just gave him a little kind of low five clap. It was clear to me. I was saying it all the way through. I was like, there's something between those two that they don't get on. They've had an argument or something.
I think
maybe it's
I suspect maybe Reguilon is kind of like a smartass type personality, and Conte absolutely can't stand that. So,
100%.
And he should have more humor for those type of guys, I think, because it's not always serious, like a Zlatan, my good friend Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and Conte, they're probably not gonna get too far down the road together, So.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
Horses for courses. Philo with a little cheeky super chat for me, man. I really appreciate it. Saying it's good to have you back, Sean. It's good to be back, my man. And listen, I'm going to be doing these as much as I can. Got a show tomorrow, a nice one. I've now got to rebuild it because I tried to start it by mistake. But we're doing a stack rank of the between me and Jack from Irish Hotspur. We're going to be doing our particular opinions on how the squad strength of each Premier League team kind of stacks up against each other to see whether Tottenham Hotspur are punching below or above our weight relative to other squads. But I do want to kind of bring this back now because Dark Sun G asked about if we get Porro, we should go for a centre-back or and a goalkeeper. And this brings me on to my next thing, right? Obviously, the Pedro Porro news, it's looking like it's going to happen, right? It's looking like every day, bit by bit by bit, there's more negotiations that we come with a little bit more on offer and Sporting say, no, we want all our money up front. Stop bothering us until you want to come back But from what we're hearing now, there's a little bit of wiggle room, and they're kind of very close, and they're just trying to figure out the last bits and pieces of it. Maybe there's a player that will go in the other direction, maybe not. But let's presume that Pedro Porro is coming in. I just want to call out Simon Gibbs then said go after Skriniar, and I think that's based, guys, on this article or one of these articles. Let me move across to, let me show it to you. This is an article that was dropped from HITC, but they're just an aggregator that picks up other things. Tuto Mercato Web was the initial, I think, the reporter Rudy Galletti says that Inter Milan should cash in on Milan Skriniar for £20 million this month amid interest from Premier League giants Liverpool and Tottenham Hotspur. Former Serie A champion Graziano Bini tells Tuto Mercato Web, with his contract expiring in just 5 months' time, Inter Milan have precisely 1 week remaining if they want to make any sort of cash on a player who won the Scudetto under Antonio Conte in 2021. It goes on saying that, look, Tottenham are ahead of the queue, but that Liverpool may also try and get in there and steal the march, given that Virgil van Dijk has gone down injured again. But listen, Skriniar's turned down the contracts. There are rumours that Tottenham are trying to get maybe a pre-contract arrangement signed for next summer. Do you believe that there's any chance, guys, that Tottenham could actually get this guy in over the line? Is he someone that is gettable for Tottenham Hotspur with all of the uncertainty around Conte's future? Do you think it's likely, unlikely? How do you feel about this? I'll start with you, Adam.
Anything's possible, given that he's decided he's not going to Inter, and there's no certainty around a definitive location for him in the long term at the moment. But the thing that puts the dampener on it for me is the fact that we've been constantly connected with wingers and forwards. It doesn't make any sense to me that we haven't been connected with any centre backs, considering that is the number one position that needs to be replaced. I think it was Dark Sung Ji said that if we get Porro, then we need to go for a centre back and a goalkeeper. If we didn't go for Porro, centre back and goalkeeper are more important than anything, because I'm sorry, we can actually manage. It's not ideal, but we can actually manage with Emerson and Doherty out on the right. We can. It is not there that we're having the worst trouble. The worst trouble is at the back. We have an absolute shit show for a back line apart from Christian Romero. Now, what we should be doing, and I don't know the financial situation in or anything like that in the back rooms of Tottenham Hotspur, but ideally we go and we put all of our eggs on Gvardiol. You put Gvardiol and Christian Romero in a back four, and you have a solid back four. You have more players to use going for the attack. If we brought in Gvardiol alone, we would probably end up winning the FA Cup. I'm not joking.
Would you go to a back? Would you think Conte would go to a back four though? Because everyone says, the reason we can't go to a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 is because we don't have the centre backs for it.
Yeah, and that's what he said.
But Conte's never played in a back four. He does this occasional 4-2-4 thing when we're chasing a game, right? But it's temporary. But he doesn't. He never starts a game with a back four.
I don't think that he's refusing to do it point blank, because he was asked about that very recently in an interview, and he said, "Look, I'd give it a go, but we don't have the players for it. We just don't have the players for it." And he's absolutely right. And irrespective, even if we decided to play, continue with the 3-4-3, then having Gvardiol in the back line still gets us to a point where we don't have to be as concerned about our defense leaking goals like a sieve, because Gvardiol is absolutely elite. Romero is absolutely elite. If you then go ahead and replace Lloris, who is an absolute liability, has cost us way too many points this season, with, say, David Raya, who I would love to see come in. Like those positions.
Is he your number one choice? Is he?
At the moment, yeah, he'd be because I think
mine too. I mean, I couldn't agree with more. Everything you're saying, Adam, is completely off my seat as well, so Jan
Oblak is the only other one that I really wanted in at one stage, but they're saying, apart from he's much older, so you wouldn't have him for as long, but also this season he's been on a downturn in terms of form, and considering David Raya is he's just in his element, he's in his prime right now, and he'll only get better because he's 26, and keepers don't even get into their prime until they're pushing 30. So you bring in a Raya, you bring in a Gvardiol, and that team, I guarantee you we win the FA Cup. So I don't understand. If you want to keep Conte around, you want to keep Harry Kane around, those are the players you should be getting in. But we're not looking at those until the summer for some reason, which I can't understand. So,
but that's what we did this last in the summer, right? So people say that Longley isn't a Conte signing But I would say that, of course, he's not anybody's signing. He was a stopgap for a centre back holding. It's like a holding position for a player that we obviously want to improve on.
Bigger signing,
for a bigger signing that wasn't appropriate, wasn't available, and wasn't viable in the summer. And so, like, I like Longley. I think he's done a good job. I think he's probably been our best centre back this season. But I see the vulnerabilities in him, in his pace, his ability when you're playing on the left or on the right, and you're getting ran at by tricky wing forwards. You know, Anthony tore him apart. Saka tore him apart, like Mahrez would have torn him apart if Ben Davies got tore apart down that side as well. Like any team that has a very tricky, fast, offensive player that's good at dribbling and can go dip in or out. There's vulnerabilities for Ben Davies or for Longley, right? But to me, I think that we are looking to strengthen in that position, but it might be a situation again that it's not available in January. Let's not marry the bridesmaid. Let's wait for the bride. Would you be okay with hearing about if Skriniar was available, but we had to wait until the summer? Would you be okay, guys, making do until then on the promise that we're going to get him for next season?
Only if it's Gvardiol. Only if it's Gvardiol.
I mean, that kind of level. I would say Skriniar or Gvardiol or Bastoni. Any of those are the level where you would, see a reason where you would forfeit the here and now for a much greater.
I would only do it for Gvardiol because Gvardiol is in a league of his own. Skriniar isn't in it. He's absolutely elite. Let's be fair, but he's also on the way down. He's 30 or approaching.
Skriniar's 27, isn't he? Skriniar.
I think he's 28 or 9 or something.
Gvardiol's 21. You'd have him for 10 years doing an absolutely phenomenal job. Do you know what I mean? Gvardiol is the one to go for. That's the only reason I would accept not going for centre backs now. If right now you can get Skriniar. You can get Skriniar for 20 million right now. That's insane. So if you're not going to go for Gvardiol in the summer, you need to be putting 20 million down on Skriniar and whatever you need to put down on Hincapie as well. And then you play Hincapie, Skriniar, and Romero in the middle in our centre back. And then all of our incredible attacking players can then just do what they want then, because finally the back line is solved, especially if you then threw in an extra 20 million for Raya or whatever it is. If we had to fix 3 positions right now permanently, it's 2 centre backs and a goalkeeper, not the ones that we're actually going after. So I hope you're right, Sean. I hope it's not like we're going to put a bid in for Gvardiol in the summer. Otherwise, what the hell are they doing?
I'm not talking about Gvardiol. I was talking about Skriniar. I don't think Gvardiol.
I know, but what I'm saying is your idea of going for the bride, not marrying the bridesmaid.
Yeah.
Gvardiol,
100%. But I think that Gvardiol would be insane to join a team like Tottenham right now. That is like it's a team that, whilst are solid and can offer all of the great amenities, the great stadium, but unfortunately there's at least 5 teams in the Premier League that are looking stronger, that are more settled, that are going through their own growth phases, that are probably more attractive, that will probably pay higher wages. But I don't think I think we're dreaming if we think that Gvardiol would choose Tottenham over the 5 or 6 clubs.
Would never choose Tottenham. Gvardiol might choose Conte. Skriniar is never going to choose Tottenham. He might choose Harry Kane and Conte and so on, but not the club. I think the fact that if the undercover message can get out that Conte is looking to stay and Kane will stay as long as Conte stay and whatever, then I think we're in with a shot with many of these top names, But as soon as the word on the street is Conte's out, we know Kane is out, and that then signing anybody of that level under any circumstances, I seriously doubt it.
But if we're not getting Gvardiol in the door, then we do need to go for Skriniar. It doesn't make any sense not to. It really.
Yeah, I mean, there's two players in that ilk for me that I'd take Skriniar all day long. I think he's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I think also. And for me, Adam, I think like a top center back, they're peaking 30, 31. They've got years,
I'm not saying don't go for him. I'm saying Gvardiol would be my number 1. But if we're not going for Gvardiol, 100%, get in Skriniar. And as I say, I'd pair him with Hincapie on the left, Skriniar playing in the middle, and Romero on the right. That would be a force to be reckoned with as well.
Yeah. So why are we thinking PSG just doesn't take him right away? I mean, PSG has been sniffing around Skriniar for a long time now, and
yeah, I don't know why they missed out.
They still need that cover, right? So
yeah, they refused to pay the. I think from memory, Inter wanted like 55, 56 million euros last summer, and PSG said no. I think it's because PSG obviously have their own financial fair play limits that they might have been pushing through. But 20 million.
That can't be a factor anymore, right? With the 20.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean,
I'd be very surprised. Listen, if Skriniar does leave and he doesn't go to Tottenham, he'll probably would go to Paris Saint-Germain. It makes the most sense. Probably going to get paid a nice little payoff as well. A big, big signing on fee, big salaries. But look, Fabrizio Romano has just tweeted. He says, he's tweeted again. He said, after the Danjuma deal is done, Tottenham have scheduled a new meeting on Wednesday to sign Pedro Porro. Last proposal for 37 million euros was not enough. Spurs hope to convince Sporting using add-ons and/or players in the deal, and he's been told that payment terms will also be crucial, i.e., when are they getting their money? And I made this point a lot, many times on my Tottenham walks recently, that there is, as much as people think it's irrelevant, there is a massive stinger to having to pay things up front if you have, because a minimum fee release clause is disruptive to the other team. They don't necessarily want to sell the player, but they're forced into it, and so they are under no obligation at all to have to negotiate. And clubs like Tottenham have their cash flows organised months, years in advance. They know exactly what's coming in, what's coming out, and having to pay 50 million, in this case 40 million, whatever it is up front, it is very disruptive and dilutive to your ability to go about your operations in the same manner that you wouldn't have otherwise had to do. So I don't think it's a minimal, just a pain in the arse. I think it's actually quite disruptive. So interesting stuff, guys. Before I want to come back to ask you guys about Pedro Porro and what you think about him, because we have this overhang. Before we move into talk about a bit more about Conte and ENIC and stuff, where I want to get your thoughts on. Before I do that, guys, there's about 350 people watching right now, which is absolutely awesome. Really appreciate you all stopping by. Please do me a favor, smash up the like button. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button to the channel. We're getting close to 5K, and really appreciate you guys all swinging back in for the re-emergence of live streams. It's going to be fun to get back into this stuff. Jory, let me ask you about Pedro Porro. So he's obviously plays for Sporting in a back three or a back five. He's very much a right wing back, right? But I've done as much research as I can, looking into the Y Scout tool, trying to find out whether or not, in a scenario where Conte does leave at the end of the season, there's a lot of back and forth at the moment. Di Marzio put out a tweet the other day, I think it was yesterday or the day before, saying he's absolutely certain that Conte won't be the manager at Tottenham next season, and then walked that back a couple of hours later. Do you think that Pedro Porro can play as a right back in a back four?
Yeah, I was actually going to say that, because to connect it to what Adam was saying about having two top center backs in a back four. If you now have top wing backs as your full backs, then you're playing like that. That's as offensive as it gets, in my view, and is a very successful formula. If it's not like a Paratici or something that's not capable defensively, but if let's just say they're equally capable going forwards or at the back, then I think that's probably an offensive formula that's definitely, it's going to be very entertaining, but it's also going to be very hard to contend with, because going forward, you would switch really to a wing-back system. You would create so many overloads. That's saying then you're relying on those two center-backs to be that safety net, for the whole team. But if they're good enough, you like Liverpool play all the time with one guy, as a safety net, and they get away with it.
Yeah, I was just going to reference that. You look at Robbo and Trent Alexander-Arnold as the two wing backs bombing up, and they only play with two centre backs. So
yeah, exactly. So that's like a wing back system with two centre backs, So and I think I think like, for example, with the wing back, I think all of these signings really almost completely risk-free whether Conte stays or goes. I think if they're decent players, then another manager with a complete we need. If we sign a really like Porro, if we sign Porro, he's not going to be a terrible fullback. I'm sure of that.
I just worry a little bit. I worry. Look, I mean, this is his score. He got a 9.6 on his last game out for Sporting against Vizela. I'm not sure how you say that. He got a goal and assist, 112 touches of the ball, which is phenomenal. 8 key passes in that game. Crossing 6 out of 20 successfuls. Very successful with his long balls. Yeah, a brilliant attacking player. But if you look at the kind of the spectrum here, right, like of how much time he spends. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but how much time he spends up in the final third. And then if you come back to the season heat map, whilst it's a little bit more distributed and he does kind of cover all areas. For me, I just worry a little bit about his ability to defend. And it would, if you were to go to a 4-2-3-1 in a future vision for Tottenham Hotspur, I just wonder a little bit whether or not his technicalities, his creative side is fantastic. But how much do you really need that in a right back role versus in a right wing back role? He's perfect. He's going to come in and it's going to transform if he comes in. Him and hopefully a centre back in the next 7 days, and Tottenham can go from looking like the season's a write-off, bearing in mind that we're fifth, only 3 points behind third position, still in 2 competitions. He would be able to play in the Champions League as well, despite playing against us for Sporting. So, all of a sudden, it could be a magical introduction into our system and entirely improve us. But
I would say the only thing I would say there, and I agree with you, Jean, but I would say we don't know whether it's the system / the manager that's making him stay up more or spend more time there, or whether it's his reluctance to track back or his offense. He's too offensively focused or whatever. We don't. I don't know that, at least. I mean, maybe you know more about it, but I haven't watched enough to know which one it is. But I caveat it once again. If the player is fairly proficient in both going forward and at the back, then there shouldn't be a big risk signing him, even though Conte is going to go. Because what we have there now it's always going to be an upgrade for any manager getting that, right? So
he's playing on the right side as well. So you've got Romero is the one covering him. So he's the one that you least have to be concerned with. Our right hand side is going to be bulletproof, essentially. If Porro is really able to apply the pressure on the right hand side going forward, and Romero is doing all the dirty work in the back, we're fine with that side. And we have to remember next season as well. I know we want to fix this season, but next season, Destiny Udoji's coming in on the left hand side.
100%.
We are going to have a fucking whopper team next season. I guarantee it. I don't care who leaves. Right, if we may end up, needing to worst case scenario, you got to replace Harry Kane with someone like a Vlahovic or whatever, which is a thing you have to cross when you come to it. But we have, let's say for the worst case scenario, you have Son, Richarlison, Kulusevski up front, and then you have Højbjerg, Bentancur in the middle, and on either side of them you have Pedro Porro and Destiny Udoji. And Romero.
I think if Conte is staying
to fix, then and you're sorted.
Yeah, to be honest, I think if Conte is staying, I think they will try to sell Son this summer. I think if he's not staying, then Kane is leaving and Son is staying. So, but
I don't mind Sonny moving on. I think Tottenham as a team, and I think Tottenham fans more so than some other clubs, have quite a very we have a massive lean into sentimentality and nostalgia, and we kind of attach ourselves to players a little bit too much. It's very rare that you see Tottenham sell players at the peak of their powers, unless that player has in the past maybe forced the hand of the owner with the likes of Berbatov or Carrick or Modric.
Is big enough, Gareth Bale. And that's the guys that are interested. It's Madrid calling, and we're usually fairly interested in talking to them, when it comes to selling. So
I'm really interested to see what happens, because I still, even though I absolutely love Sonny, I did spend the first half of the season, or the first half of this half of the season that's gone, the first sort of 10, 12 games, suggesting, and I think I was right when I was saying it, that I think that Perisic coming into the team, playing as
I
aggressively.
completely agree with you. I think you're the only one that I've seen consistently talk about the structural nature of the problem. I still feel that's the main problem that Sonny has, but now it's eaten so much into his confidence that he's overthinking everything, over touching the ball and all of that. But the original problem is the structural. The original problem was that we slowed down our transition so much that Sonny isn't effective anymore. Why did we slow it down? Simply because the defense wasn't able to do the running and do the passing that's needed for a slightly faster. We're seeing it now. The last 2 games, we're seeing longer passes and better passes. We're seeing bigger triangles.
Porro will probably cross into Sonny like no one's business, and he'll have a complete resurgence with a better right wing back crossing over to him. You know,
I mean, look at these stats though, guys.
One more in the back line that's a good passer, then it's a completely different game. You know, so yeah.
These stats on that's the previous player. Where am I? When we're looking here, here we go. This is Pedro Porro. This is the last 365 days, right? We can extend it out if we want to, but this is against all fullbacks, so that includes right backs and right wing backs, and across the top 5 leagues across Europe. So it's a brilliant sample size. Look at his look at these greens. He's in the top 2 or 3 percentile for everything aggressive, right? You know, in terms of his goals, he scores more goals per 90 than 98% of fullbacks on the left or the right. More shots on target. He's probably the most, number one. He's probably the highest shots on target, shots. Everything's fantastic. His passing, you know, his long passes, his ability to get long passes to where they need to be is superb. 88% conversion rate. Oh, sorry, a 45% conversion rate. Actually, that's sorry. Spoke too soon. He has a lot of cracks at long passes, but they're not always particularly successful. But in terms of assists, everything about him from a forward foot, like a front foot player, is superb. But then if you come down here and look at the defensive side, he falls apart a little bit, right? And that's what I say. I'd love it if he came in. I really want him to come in and absolutely just like devastate our weaknesses in our right-hand side, improve us so much so quickly. It'll be fantastic as long as Conte stays. If there is a situation where Conte disappears at the end of the season, regardless of whether or not we sign him, this other fella on the left-hand side and a centre-back and even a goalkeeper, even if we get 4 players in, but Conte is homesick, he's missing his friends, the death of those people that, you know, were close to him has made him reassess life and he wants to go and spend more time with people in Italy. If all of that stuff is true that Di Marzio was putting out, then I feel like if you buy this guy and the next managerial cab off the rank plays with a back 4, which Pochettino does, Tuchel does, you know, a bunch of other managers that we've been sort of slightly linked with. Most managers play a back 4. And I wonder whether or not with him, if we spend a lot of money on this guy, and I also wonder whether this is the reason why Daniel Levy is hesitant to pay that 40 million quid up front. It's because he doesn't know, or maybe he does know, or he's unsure about what Conte's future looks like. And I think that this could be a potential square peg in a round hole because he's not going to play. Like Pedro Porro probably fits a right midfielder or a right wing forward role better than he does a right back, in my opinion. And I think it's such a
he's such a malleable peg, though. To be honest, like it's as Jory and I pointed out before. I think he mentioned it first. Liverpool play with a back 4, and the wingers both dart forward. If Poch comes back, which is almost a certainty, if we lose Conte, Poch plays with attacking wing backs, even in a 4, because you remember we had the likes of Danny Rose and Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier. These are players who are bombing forward as well. Now, I know they can do defensive work to a very successful degree, and Porro seems like he's a little bit weak. But again, you got to remember, like we have Christian Romero on the right-hand side covering him, and he is like absolutely a phenomenal centre-back. We only need, if we're going to play a back 4, we only need one absolutely ultimate centre-back playing on beside Romero to give him even more confidence. And it wouldn't matter if our wing backs are more attackingly minded, especially when, again, you've got the way that our double pivot works. Bentancur, you saw Bentancur yesterday getting back and doing an awful lot of the defensive work. Højbjerg gets back and does a lot of the defensive work. He's not quick enough to get back if we've already done if we're already going back on the counter, Højbjerg doesn't get back as quick, but he can play incredibly well defensively. If our the most defensive players are the two centre backs and our double pivot, and we just let the wingers go forward, that works even in a 4.
I mean, it becomes even more offensive in a back four, you know, and
I think Porro works regardless.
Yeah, and I would say, Sean, let's say this is the only other signing we do. Yeah. Now for the rest of the season, now we have the option, because you've been seeing it. You've been seeing Conte's now leaning towards having Paratici on the left and Emerson. Then he plays Emerson on the right. That's kind of what his tendency, unless Emerson just had a bad game or something, he has to take him out for that. But that's really what Conte wants to do. The thinking here is we're going to be lopsided. We're going to be offensive on the left, and we're going to be defensive on the right, and maybe the centre backs can move a little bit more to the left. Now you can do the reverse of that.
Yeah, I like that.
You can set up for what's best for the team.
So do you think that? So would that be, let's presume we get Porro in for the rest of the season? Do you think you'll see many examples where you'll see Perisic and Porro playing at the same time, given that both of them are like far better going forward than they appear to be defensively?
I would say I doubt that we'll see them starting. Maybe, I don't know, but I doubt. I don't know. Maybe because then there's another factor, which is simply fight and fitness and football skill in general. And I think Porro maybe is beyond in terms of skill and fitness of the rest of the players, so he might be chosen on that ground. But in terms of tactics, I think Conte would probably go for the reverse side, being slightly defensive.
So go Sessegnon, Porro, and then the other way around, do Emerson, Perisic. Exactly. The only thing about that is if he ends up going Sessegnon, Porro, and we start absolutely not only playing a blinder with Porro going forward, but if he also starts including Sonny in the game, get considerably more, and Sonny starts being on fire, Perisic will never play again. If Sonny starts banging in goals with Porro on the pitch,
and that's kind of maybe. I'm not too dissatisfied with Paratici, even though he's had some really bad defensive outings lately. But in general, I'm pretty okay with Paratici. But I do think exactly if Sonny was anywhere near what he's used to, well then he's not nearly as needed. You know, it's just simply for the lack of the left side attacking.
Or you look at Croatia. Sorry, what? You look at Croatia, the way that they play Perisic. Perisic would be the understudy to Sonny. So instead of constantly playing them together and them not being able to work in the same area of the pitch, you then have Destiny Udogie as our number one left wing back, Sessegnon as his understudy, and you only play Perisic when Sonny needs a break.
You have an extra striker option as well.
It's good, isn't it?
You're chasing a game. You have Paratici on starting the game. Let's say he starts the game, and you're chasing the game. You put Porro on instead of the defensive. You know, now you've got two offensive wing backs instead. You know, so the amount of tactical options that what this one player can give us is actually quite a lot, you know, which is typical Conte. That's like a typical Conte signing, you know, and even though I haven't been happy with I don't feel like we're getting nearly our money's worth out of Richarlison as a winger. Whether either side, he really should be the central striker. I still feel in terms of tactics and the squad and the formation and all of that, he's still a very valuable player because he can slot in all those plays.
Do you think he's been a good signing? I know it's early to tell, right? You can't really judge people after 6 months. And I know he's had injuries and I know he's had limited spots in his place, but I was someone that wasn't particularly on board with him from the get-go, and nothing really has changed in my mind. Like if you compare that, we spent 55 up to 65, I think, on him and Gabriel Jesus. You know, I know he's injured now, but I think his introduction into the Arsenal team was far, and he cost less, like by 10-15% less than Richarlison did, and both of those players were available. Do you think maybe we chose the wrong one, or do you still hold hope that the Richarlison will be a long-term success at Tottenham?
No, for me it's Richie over Jesus, and I think it's a good signing. I do not think that he's been utilized anywhere close to, and I don't mean it as a mistake. I just think it's yet to come. To be honest, I think
there's been injuries as well.
Yeah, and then there's the injuries, and then there's the World Cup and all of that. But I do think I can see a world, for example, because we kind of thought it as to give Kane a bit of a break, but I'm not sure that Kane is allowing anybody to give him a break. You know, I'm kind of thinking Kane, like yesterday, he played with a fever. You know, the man.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable! What a hero that guy is.
Unbelievable. You know, So I'm foreseeing a future where we're also doing the 3-5-2 more, and then Richie and Kane in a 2, for example, is going to be insane. Like that, that will destroy defenses in my view.
What makes my mouth water is the thought. I love Conte. I don't want him to go because I think that we're more likely to push on continuing his current tenure than letting him go and starting all over again. But my mouth waters at the idea of Poch coming back and we play a 4-2-3-1 and the one up front on his own, just like for Brazil, is Richarlison. Then you play Son, Kane, Kulusevski behind them. So Kane is playing in the number 10, where I believe he belongs, in spite of everyone wanting him to be a number 9. He's a number feckin' 10.
Yeah. He'll naturally drift back that way anyway. As he gets older, he'll naturally fall back into that.
But don't you think it's Kane refusing to do the 10? Or...
I think everyone it's like everyone cries out for Kane to be like the one who's scoring all the goals, so they want.
We can't do a 10 at the moment. Like we can't like how many times have we tried?
Think about the players that we have, Sean. Like if Pochettino was in the team now, what would Pochettino do?
Oh no, of course.
Up front on the number 9, you'd 100%. Have Son, Kane, Kulusevski in a line behind him. You would have Basuma and Bentancur on a double pivot. You would have Porro out on the right as right wing back, Udogie out as left wing back, and then you have Romero and then all you need is some lethal.
Until you have that somebody else. You can't do a back 4, can you?
No, you can't.
Eric Dyer cannot play in a back 4. Ben Davies can't do it.
Neither can comes in, you just need another centre back and a goalkeeper, and suddenly we have the best team in the league. I'm sorry, easily.
I think Adam kind of nails it because I completely agree. Whether it be Conte or even if Potts comes in, like we're not that far from really, really amazing stuff in both systems. You know, but if we don't do that, then, like I said at the start, like at the end of the summer transfer window, I said we were risking the whole project, the whole tenure of Conte and Kane and everything for not getting that centre back in the summer. You know, I was certain that was going to be where it all came out undone, and that's what we're seeing. You know, so yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Adam. I think either way, it's a win situation.
For me, I definitely want. Actually, before I say anything, guys, there's still 370 odd people in the house. It's amazing to see. We've only got about 140 likes, though. I mean, that means that 60% of you haven't hit the like button, guys. Come on, we can get it up to 200, can't we? If we all just go and drum that thumb as quick as possible, help the channel out, help a brother out. The Hobo special, guys. Let me ask you. Let's move on. Let's transition into some of the problems that we're currently facing, right? Because after the Fulham game last night, everything feels a little bit lighter. Everything feels a little bit like less stressful. Everyone's a little bit happier today. I thought the first 30 minutes of that game was absolutely awful. I thought we were terrible. I was screaming effing and blinding and banging. I've cracked my desk from being so frustrated. But we got through it by hook or by crook, thanks to Harry Kane. And so everything feels a little bit less stressful. But in the back of my mind, I'm still like, nah. We've got problems with our recruitment. We've got problems with the contentment of potentially certain big players. And we certainly have massive shadows, dark clouds hanging over us in the ability for people who are employed by us currently to rebuild all of the things that are happening in the football side that are more intangible. The scouting network, the coaching staff, the development of young players, the performance director, the Steinses, all these people that are coming in because they've been employed by a guy that's been tasked with this rebuild, this kind of invisible rebuild. And yet we now know that he has been found guilty of all of the misdemeanors and things that he was a part of at Juventus in Fabio Paratici. The initial verdict, and it's only one of several other judgments from what I gather that can come down in the future, but the initial one says that he's banned from 2.5 years from the Italian league, but there's this definite push from, I think it's called the Italian Olympic Committee or something, to get him banned across Europe. UEFA and FIFA, a worldwide ban. Obviously, there'll be appeals. Obviously, that will kick the can down the road. So I don't necessarily think that there's any immediate issues that that would force the hand of Daniel Levy. But let me just, I want to start by asking you guys how you feel about it. Do you think that, you know, he's obviously guilty of doing these mismanaged funds? There's rumors that maybe he made Tottenham overpay for Romero as a favor for Atlanta that got back to Juventus in some form. Do you think that this guy should be representing Tottenham? Do you think he's good enough in and of himself, from what we've seen so far, to want this to go away and to hope that we can be swept under the carpet? Or do you think that we should, you know, assume that there's no smoke without fire and kind of have a clean break? Or should we just push it all, like let's hope it gets kick the can down the road, so to speak, and deal with it when there's more kind of complete information and final judgments? I'll start with you on this one, Jory, and I'll come to Adam.
So, I mean, I think it won't be too much of our choice as such. Then, I mean, the club, you know, I think, you know, I think most likely he'll be in a situation where he won't be able to function in his role anyway, you know, so there won't really be anything to do other than get somebody else to do that role. And for my part, I would want him to continue if at all possible. I think he's been doing a great job, to be honest, under extremely difficult circumstances. I also think he's kind of integral to Conte. Also, I mean, you know, like I wouldn't want to have Poch in now right away after Conte if Conte leaves. You wouldn't want Poch? No, I would want him. I want Poch to come back, but not now.
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah. I definitely want Poch. I agree with Poch. It's not over and all of that, but I would want him to come into a different club than we are at that moment. But anyway, I'd like, for me, Paratici should, of course, just, you know, everything just needs to run its course. I don't think, like, in terms of if you're kind of hinting at ethics or whatever, you know, I don't think, you know, that's like not even throwing stones in a glass house. That's more like shooting a submachine gun in a glass house. You know, it's like, it is football, you know, that you won't get very far with holding the ethics card high, you know. So
yeah, true.
But rules are rules, and I mean, I don't want him to get any favors there. Like I wouldn't want other clubs to get away with anything, whatever. I'm more worried actually that it came out that Bentancur and Kulu, they took maybe a lower.
Yeah, I've just seen this.
Something, and they might be banned for a month for that.
This is part of the thing. This was part of the separate issues, right? Where all of the players were asked to forego their salaries for 3 months during COVID. And yet they actually took 2 months of it or something. I might be getting the detail wrong, but they actually took 2 months under the table that wasn't declared. And so there could be bans for a lot of these players.
This also, for me, this also solves the mystery. How come we could sign Kulusevski and Bentancur for what, 45 million? What, I can't even remember this ridiculous sum. You know, they together now are over 100 million. In value, you know, and for me, we could do that because they were trying to also clean house. You know, Juventus saw a way maybe it would that part of it could go away, so on. So it's part of that whole thing for sure. So we shouldn't knock it too much, because I'm certainly happy for having Kulusevski and Bentancur in the club.
Yeah, but I don't know how. This is one of the things that I'm pretty sure. Again, I might be hazy on this one, but I'm pretty sure back in April, when it was summarily dismissed by the judge, the reason it was dismissed was because they were accused of manipulating the prices paid for these players, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how can you prove that someone was like you over or underpaid for something? It's a subjective.
Well,
it's like saying,
you have to show funds transferred. I think you have to trace some funds. Otherwise, I don't think you can do it. I mean, I think it's similar to market manipulation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In stocks. So that you have to basically follow the money, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Adam, Philo's here saying he's hearing that Kulu and Bentancur could get bans also. Mate, once again, thank you very much for the super chat, buddies. It's very nice of you. We're hearing this, Adam, as well, like because of that underpayment thing or the salary under the table thing, we could get retrospective bans for these two. But all in all, like, what's your stance on Paratici? Like, is it best that we like part company with the guy? How do you feel he's done? I know a lot of people call him Don Paratici. Some people call him a con Paratici. Like, how do you feel about him, and how valuable is he to us that we should fight to keep him if we can, or is it better just to kind of cut ties?
Purely based on a talent and skill and what he brings to the club perspective, I personally believe that he's a net positive in that regard, in the sense that he's a wheeler and dealer within the transfer circles. I think that we're better having him than not having him, only if you look at it from that viewpoint. The concern that I have overall in football in general, and in this microcosm of this incident that's happening now within Tottenham, is that I would always prefer to hold my head up high, to walk straightly and uprightly and doing always the right thing, than to fail along the way and not achieve very much, than to be winning through deception and any kind of like untoward behavior. So in the macrocosm of football at the moment, we're looking at loads of states and billionaires coming in, buying clubs and making them too big to fail and too big to beat. And then you're in a situation where you're looking at us potentially being taken over, or having a certain percentage of the company being taken over by Saudis or whatever it is. I can't remember where they're from. Sorry, QSI or these people. They're going to come in, give us extra money, and we'll have. Yeah, so sorry, Qatar, thank you. So we end up in a situation where we've got more money to spend, and potentially that helps us to battle against these titans like Manchester City and Newcastle and whatnot. But I don't like that is the case. You shouldn't need to be bought out by billionaires to be able to compete. But unfortunately,
100% agree with you on that. You should be able to live within your means, right?
Yeah.
Any other business in any other walk of life is applauded and supported and put up as a bastion of society if you can create success, create growth, create jobs for people, make money, make profit, and do all of that stuff without having to go to the bank of mum and dad or the bank of the UK or bank of whatever, right, to go and get that stuff done. Football was the only industry where clubs are, or owners of clubs are called, and I know this might affect some people that feel horrible, like they hate Daniel Levy, but call them parasites or cancers because they run a tight ship and create growth and progress whilst within their means. And the only teams that outperform, generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, are the teams that have to go and get sugar daddy ownership. It is what it is. I've come to terms with it. I've shaken hands with reality, but for me,
I think you're strong.
The dark side of it.
We're going to talk about this in a second, Joey.
The dark side of it is that we now end up in a position where the only way we get our old Premier League back is if absolutely every single team gets bought out by a state, and then we're all on an even playing field again. And that's the only way.
It's easy, guys. It's easy. It's like the chairman of Man City said. If the clubs really feel that way, and if the league really feels that way, they would have rules that prevent it. There's nothing.
Yeah. But again, it's money. It's
German
money.
league doesn't have this problem, and so on.
Yeah,
And
it's all
legality and morality are two different things.
It's
aren't
because the English oligarchs want to do their thing. Then they have to have rules that allow them to do that, and that means that it becomes interesting for the foreign oligarchs. And
let me just bring this back to bringing this back to the situation with Paratici, though. Like we're looking at things happening. We're looking at things happening within the football at the moment that is just making it bleaker and bleaker and bleaker and darker.
I completely agree.
You end up in a situation where you're like, oh, if we can't beat them, join them. But I honestly hate that. I'd rather continuously get defeated and walk upright than to go down a dark path just so that we can say, well, we're putting trophies in the cabinet now. So with the situation where that correlates to the Paratici situation, if he has been doing legitimately dodgy things, if he is an underhanded kind of guy, I don't want him near the club. I don't care how much of a benefit he is, and I do think that he's been a benefit in terms of the dealings that he's done. Although they're probably, they've been tinted now with this sort of shady perspective. So, like for me, it's if where I struggle with that is literally just if Paratici if he's. Again, it's what Sean just said: moral versus legal. If he's doing things that are like not going according to the bureaucracy, and it's all red tape and it's crap and it's bullshit and it's only in favor of certain people, then I don't really have a problem with that per se. If it's literally just if it's not like for me, it's a moral thing. It's a moral thing.
Yeah, I know, but that's where I'm
morally. Then I don't want him at the club.
I agree, but this is where I feel you're on a really slippery slope in general, because first of all, we hear a lot about, Saudi Arabia. I've spent quite some time in that region, and last summer, and it's completely changed my view. I was very similar views on it than kind of the prevailing view in the West, and you hear a lot about Saudi Arabia and Qatar, their human rights problems and so on, and I like especially when it comes to the Premier League. I will remind the English audience that they have been a part of a constant invading force, which is America, and themselves taking part in wars that the locals were not happy about. A lot of people died. A lot of corruption followed those wars, and so on. So I don't think it's not even like there's absolutely no platform to make that argument. Of course, we can do it as individuals, but then we should have an even higher standard towards our homegrown owners / governments, rules, all of that. Instead of just waking up to it as soon as there's some foreign interest in that. But there's kind of two really bad trends going on now. One is the higher, more and more cash flow in there from billionaires that don't care, but they can spend whatever. That's the Arabian side of things. And at one point, the Chinese looked like that. At one point, it was Russian and so on. Even at one point, Icelanders bought West Ham, by the way, and so on, but so that kind of comes and go. And then the other part, which I'm more nervous about, is the corporate American sports structure coming into the Premier League, because they don't only want to make some money, they actually want to first of all, over leverage everything they buy. As soon as they buy something, they take it all out with loans. They get their money back the next day.
Yeah, and the environment for that stuff has changed. So, like, to me, like if there was going to be money coming in, whether it's minority stakes from clubs or from people like the QSI stuff, which, listen, everyone's got their own opinion on it. For me personally, I think I would have thought that people that are Levy out and ENIC out would run a mile from the idea of the QSI investment, because it's a minority stake. That means that Daniel Levy and ENIC are likely going to be still at the helm, just working with them. And whether that relationship works or not, who knows? but the money that would be coming in would have first dibs, first refusal to the current owners to take that money out as part of their payout. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there's that money comes straight in and gets paid to go and make the team into gazillionaires. But for me, like the idea of going and getting venture capital or leveraged debt partners from America, with the economy as it is in flux, with currency rates, the currency risk, the volatility. Right now, the dollar is quite strong against the pound, but only 2 months ago, the pound and the dollar almost went to parity, right? So like there's so much risk with depending on how you want to leverage it and on what sort of terms the coupon rates would be. That to me, I don't want people like Todd Bowley coming into Tottenham Hotspur.
For me, even worse is that I know the Americans are dead set when they invest in that dead set on changing this into a franchise system, And so for me, I would rather get the Arabs, the rich Arabs, in.
Yeah.
Even though I completely agree with Adam, and to that I would say it's simply a matter of putting also like the English clubs deciding to make some rules that are going to stop this, and it's in the hands of every club. And one club I would mention is Brentford. Brentford does everything the way it's supposed to do.
They brilliant model.
Actually do. They do the football ethics to a T. They give out a shirt every 3 years because they don't want to skin their fans every year with a new shirt, and so on. What does our club do? They give out,
I fall for that every season,
every year, and so on, and so there's levels to this stuff, and I certainly don't think the ENIC ownership is very ethical in any of it. But for me, Sean, the bigger question is that I see the way the business model in ENIC is set up. It's actually a problem for them. Football can only be there as an entertaining entity, and it's kind of like how like I work in movies. For me, it's really clear when I've worked on a couple of Marvel movies and Star Wars and stuff like that. And these things are much more about selling the IP, selling everything around it, than the actual thing itself, And that's kind of what I see ENIC doing with Tottenham as well. I'm at the point now. I'm actually at the point now. I think a lot of people have woken up now the last couple of weeks around ENIC, and I think
I don't know what's changed. I'm sorry, I don't understand what's changed. Like this idea that Daniel Levy and ENIC are not spending money is wrong. Like it's not the fact that we haven't spent money. It's the way we've spent it, right? Which I don't believe is that I don't believe Daniel Levy is responsible for buying Tanguy Ndombele or for forcing that one. I don't believe that Daniel Levy identified Lo Celso as the right player, or Davinson Sanchez, or Steven Bergwijn, or any of these players. Like he's employed.
But I agree. I mean, with Ndombele, for example, that actually I think was like Daniel Levy went out of his normal role and gave Potts his biggest ask because of what he did, because of the final and stuff like that.
But I think that Daniel Levy gets a very hard whip from a lot of people because there's this idea of the buck stops.
It's not about the money; it's how the money is spent.
Right, but Daniel Levy employs people to do that. Now you can make the argument, and it's a very fair one, to say that Daniel Levy continued to employ certain people for far too long. Right, people like Steve Hitchin. Well, hang on, but let me just finish my point. Right, yeah. So
you're triggering me.
That's okay, man. So I love it. It's a nice debate tonight. But for me, like this idea that we don't spend money, I think is wrong. This idea that we spend money incorrectly is right. We've wasted so much money, and then we can't get them off the balance sheet. Daniel Levy's inability to write down assets, to amortize them in the correct way, just to accept it as it is, as there's risk associated with that, with acquisitions of these types of assets. I totally take those points on board, but the idea that he is, like the worst chairman in the world and like a 0 out of 10 candidate, and such a horrible thing to happen to Tottenham Hotspur that's holding us back. I think that first and foremost, people are comparing him to owners that have a reckless disregard for money because they pull it out of the ground, and we don't have that. And I don't think that should be scoffed at or ridiculed or derised, because I think that that's just not necessarily the only way to go about it. I also think that Daniel Levy, yes, ultimately the buck stops at the top when it comes to anyone. Like, Tim Cook at Apple is responsible if you get a bad customer service at your local Apple store. Technically, the buck stops at the top, but in reality, I don't think that Daniel Levy should be chastised for buying poor players. Every single person that he has employed has come with a CV to do that director of football role, or to be the scout, or to be whatever. The youth development that's not really working out. All of the people that he's employed have come with a CV that has been, well regarded. They have historical successes where they've gone, and yet it just hasn't quite worked out to the point where we can go on to that next level. But it's worked out enough to take us from where we were, which was a team that perennially finished in the bottom half of the table, to a team that finishes fourth or third or second or fifth. Daniel Levy has taken us to our highest league finish twice since 1962. Right? I know we didn't go that one step further.
That's on the manager for me.
That's on the but that's what I'm saying. But if the idea of the buck stops at the top, therefore everything that's bad about Tottenham Hotspur gets thrown at him.
But
to be fair, everything that's good also should be thrown at him as well.
You're conflating so many things, Sean. I think here, if we take for our good success with Potts, that came about because of who Potts is. Potts took raw material and, as a world-class coach, molded that into a world-class team.
But the buck stops at the top, right? So everything you have to be consistent. If Daniel Levy gets the hate for lack of success, even though we've got to 6 finals in the last 10 years, 12 years, whatever it is, right? If Daniel Levy is the reason why we haven't won a trophy, he's also the reason why we got to 6 finals. People can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it. You have to either attribute all of the football stuff. Huh?
You can't always land, Joe. You can't always land the bad stuff at Levy's feet and always give the manager the praise for the good stuff. It has to be all or nothing.
I understand that, but you can. I can accept your argument, Sean, in terms of at least Daniel Levy recruited Potts. Yes, okay, yeah. So in that indirect way, I'll accept that.
Right.
But that's not the
But it's the same indirect. It's the same indirect way that Daniel Levy's.
That we got to, Sean, is not the final word of it. The real question is, why didn't we win any of those finals?
Well, that's also down to the manager, isn't it? It's down to the players and the manager as well.
Yeah,
if you're saying that.
No, I mean, for me, it was down to what the manager was saying at the time. I need reinforcement. I don't know of any successful campaigns that do not get reinforcement at the crucial point.
Right, but Daniel Levy,
our club has refused to do it exactly at the most crucial point.
But Jory, Daniel Levy didn't make Tottenham screw up the 0-0 Carabao Cup penalty shootout against Manchester United, where we lost that. Right, that was a penalty shootout. That was down to the players that missed that. No. Daniel Levy didn't give away the penalty, Sissoko in the handball in the first minute. The referee made a poor decision on that. The game's a completely different dynamic if that doesn't happen. If just those 2 games go a different way, then all of a sudden the argument that Tottenham Hotspur have won less trophies under Daniel Levy than at any other point in their history, that argument goes away, and he's comparable to any other chairman, and also at the same time has taken us to higher average place finishes over a period of 20 years than we've ever seen, with the exception of 1960-61 season. And so it's just those 2 little, like,
in the world.
1 or 2 little things go a different way, and the entire argument is null and void.
This is the same argument as, how come our defensive's playing so shit now when they were okay last season? The answer isn't that they're playing shit now. The answer is they're playing like what they're able to play. They were overperforming the season before.
Oh, it's a combination.
With the Champions League final, we had no business being in that final, and we only got to that final because of one individual. And we kind of were lucky before that as well,
Are you talking about Lucas Moura?
Yeah. Yes.
In fairness, though, that Spurs team deserved to get to the final.
I don't agree. They were great in those last games for sure, but before that, they were not convincing at all.
Do you remember the players that we had in that team?
It's a cup competition, though. Things happen.
Unreal.
Yeah, exactly. I agree, and that's why you can always, and that's why the league is much more interesting. But and what was said at the time when we were poised to take the lead was that we needed reinforcement in January, and we didn't get it. Yeah, and it's not about the money; it's time.
No, but I agree with you on that point. I agree with you on that point, right? So, I'm not someone that sits here. I know I'm considered.
This is what happened this summer. Sean. It's like if I can see that the whole project is risked by not bringing any centre backs in, then
Conte said he was happy.
And everybody else in the club can see it as well.
Yeah, and we can see it now, right? We can see we need centre backs now. But yeah,
I said it at the time.
No, I know. Yeah, I know that. But what I'm saying is that in the summer, Conte asked for 6 players. He got 7. One of them hasn't arrived yet, but he got 7. He was asked if he's happy. He said that he is. At the time, at the start of the summer, Gary Neville made a fantastic point after the game last night, where he said that people say that Conte wasn't backed or isn't backed or hasn't been backed. He has been backed. It's just that some of the players that have come in haven't necessarily materialized in the way that we would have hoped or had the initial impact. Conte said he was happy at the time. Conte was asked 2 weeks ago after, I forget the game that we lost, where the centre-backs just made catastrophic errors one after another. Whether
you're
he
really
wants
on thin ice, Sean, when you're using Gary Neville as to back you up.
No, I'm just saying that he made a good point. He doesn't.
Yeah, well,
you haven't got to agree.
Too often, but I guess
well, okay. But I agree with him. You don't have to, but I do.
No.
But I feel like 2 weeks ago, Conte was asked whether he needed new centre backs. He said no. He said he's okay with the centre backs. He wants to prioritise right wing backs and forwards. So if you want to back Conte, then you have to take him on his word. You have to get on board with it. And at the same time, I also think that this idea that Tottenham haven't backed the manager, we never back a manager. I'd love someone to define to me in a tangible, measurable way what backing means, because it seems like it's a subjective term that is always analysed with hindsight to say, well, he wasn't backed because it hasn't worked out. In the midpoint of the summer, Tottenham Hotspur, everyone was happy. Everybody in English football, not just Tottenham fans.
You're dead on, Sean. Because let's be fair. If Richarlison was on 7 to 9 goals right now, if Basuma had come on strong immediately as soon as he started playing, and if we weren't plagued with the injuries that we've been plagued with since the start of the season, nobody would be saying that Conte wasn't backed. Do you know what I mean? We had so many issues with the players that came in.
I think those players were backing Conte, yeah. And I'm not unhappy with those signings at this point. I think those players will come good, both of them. I think both players are pieces in a greater puzzle that's just halfway done. You know, maybe not even halfway done. They're just the starting pieces, as he's been saying the whole time. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
And let's just get this straight, guys, because in general, and this is why I appreciate you, Sean, definitely, because. You know, I really listen to your side of it, and I completely agree that there is versions of ENIC out that are lazy and too easy. Yes, I don't think too many people are using those versions of the argument, but I totally agree that it can be an easy go-to for everything under the sun, really. But in the same way, you can have an easy go-to, you know.
Of course. The truth is always
whatever. Yeah,
it's never black and white, is it, Joey? Right? It's always somewhere in the gray.
Yeah, exactly. Right? No, I totally agree, and I also agree with nobody's over any criticism and stuff like that. But for me, and this is something I've seen even more clearly now, is that the way the ENIC business model is set up is like. It is to a certain extent footballing dominating their business is disruptive for them. So they want us to be in top 4, yes, but I'm not too sure that they even want us to be winning, because winning will mean defending, will mean so they will be caught in a loop of becoming more and more taking on more and more risk.
Yeah,
That is
I agree with that.
associated with maintaining a higher and higher level of a team.
I agree. Yeah. To me, it's very strange, right? I've listen, as you know, I always try to remind people, and I think most people who watch my stuff, at least on the channel, know that I try to be balanced, right? I come across sometimes like I'm Levy in, because when there's such a weight of velocity of people that are like so much on the Levy out stuff, then you being in the middle looks like you're on the extreme, right? But I'm not. I try to be balanced.
Pendulum. You've got to lean so heavy the other way when one side is like
exactly right, exactly.
Yeah,
but for me, like what I want to say is,
to be honest, yeah.
But what I want to say is that I 100% acknowledge so many of the pitfalls and the flaws in our ownership, so many of the mistakes that they've made. They are not perfect. They are far from perfect. I don't think that they are the problem, like the biggest thing, the biggest issue necessarily. I don't necessarily think that they've done this horrendous job. They can improve. They need to change. If they don't want to change their ways, and I don't think they will. What surprises me is that Daniel Levy is a property guy. So he likes steady income, nice rental yield. He doesn't like risk. He's made a lot of money from playing it safe as houses kind of thing. Joe Lewis made all of his fortune by being a currency trader, right? Alongside George Soros on the Black Wednesday thing, or the Black Friday thing. Like, to me, like, he should have a higher risk tolerance than he does. But at some point over the years, he pivoted from currency into property. And now he's got no interest in it. No interest in football, no interest in Tottenham. So I think that they're the wrong guys for the job, especially in this new version of football that's emerging all of the time, where if you want to be successful, you have to break the bank. You have to go and be that kind of speculate to accumulate concept needs to be exaggerated and amplified to the point where you're betting the house. Chelsea right now are betting the house on them closing the gap and generating revenues. And if they don't do it in the next 2 or 3 years, they could be the next Everton. And I think that they could be, because I think that whilst the guy Todd Bowley is happy to splash other people's money that's leveraged on debt, he doesn't really have a vision. He doesn't really have a philosophy. He's just gazumping other people and stealing other people's ideas. Good luck to him. I'm sure the Chelsea fans love the fact that new players are coming in, but I don't think they like the fact that the club is where they are at the moment, in the middle of the table. Adam, I want to come to you and give you some time, because I've just gone on a rant and I want to let you have your say on it as well. But let me just get through a couple of super chats before I do, because I forgot this one. William Kelly, big up to you, my man. Paratici is the biggest crook and will do time. He has been. I hope he doesn't. He has been sacked at Tottenham. Just won't announce till after the January window. I mean, Adam, I'd like you to come in on that one as well. But let me just get through this last one, because there was one a minute ago. Spurs between the lines says players got us there. They couldn't get over the line. That's on them. I think he's talking about the players, or maybe he's talking about the owners. I'm not sure.
On ENIC,
maybe it's on ENIC, yeah. When it comes to blame, it needs to be spread around. That includes managers and players. Well, that's how I feel as well. I think that there's a pizza pie of blame. Everyone gets a slice. Some slices are bigger than others. Really appreciate the super chats from you guys. Adam, first and foremost, just quickly answer: do you think that Paratici's been fired, and that William's saying that he's gone? We just don't know it yet. And second of all, I want to let you go in and let you have your say on the whole Daniel Levy ENIC thing, and what is the solution that you would like to see, going forward?
On the Paratici thing, it's so hard to comprehend why there's been no statement from the club whatsoever. And I suppose when you look at it from the perspective of if he's been sacked, it's hard for them to come out with a statement and not hint at the fact that he's been sacked. So I suppose that could be a very legitimate reason as to why the club have been quiet. And come February 1st, it may be the case that they go, we've let Paratici go. Doing that in February, if we've already had a couple of 2 or 3 signings that are going to make the fans happy, that'll be a better time to turn around and go, okay, Paratici's gone. Than doing it now when we're still needing someone to do the work for us. But look, if Paratici goes, I will say it is best for the team if Paratici is as dodgy as he sounds, because as I said, I've been looking at the comments and what people have thought about Paratici, and most people seem to think as long as we're winning trophies and getting the players in that we need, then let's have a crook there. And I'm sorry, I'm just not on that page. I'm not on that wavelength. If Paratici's a crook, let him go. Let them announce that he's gone, and let's move on. Let's move on from him. I think that we're better off having upstanding people. We've constantly talked about how Kane is a model football player and model professional. I think Conte, as outside of his neuroticism, is a really upstanding moral person who wants to do the right thing and just be a really, really hard worker and do what's best for the team and for the people in his life. I want those kinds of people in the team. So if Paratici gets announced that he's gone, I'll be like, okay, thanks for what you've done for us up to a point, but I'd be happy to see the back of him just so that we don't have any of that kind of negativity around the club. We can just be grateful for the fact that we've got in that time, we've got Bentancur, Kulusevski, Romero, Udogie, and possibly now Porro and Danjuma as a result of his efforts maybe as well. Do you know what I mean? So we'll just be grateful for what we have.
The man of the match last night, right?
Who was
Emerson Royale.
Give
him one more try. Give him one more chance.
I have no problem whatsoever with Emerson staying at the club as long as we get in Porro, because then you have Porro when we need to be offensive and you have Emerson when we need to be defensive because he is a defensive dynamo. Don't anyone dare tell me that he is not a brilliant defender. He is
he's the best header of the ball. He's the best defensive clearer in heading. Like, there's nobody better in our club in defense than Emerson Royale.
He's brilliant in defense. It's not what we need on that side. But if you need to move if we're going to play a 5-4-1 against certain teams, you want him in your team. You really do.
Yeah. Okay, and what's your take on how Jory feels? I want to come back to Jory as well after this, because I want to kind of try and find like a workable solution, right? We're all very reasonable people.
Unifying solution.
Yeah. Something. I don't think we're ever going to get like a unipolar mission statement here, but there's got to be some middle ground. And what does it look like to you, Adam? Like, I'll let you take the floor, go with it wherever you want, and then Jory can come in and give his version. Maybe we can find somewhere in the middle that suits all parties.
I want to say, first of all, like, I know more often than not people are going to see that you and I, Sean, tend to lean in the same direction on almost every considerable topic. So I'm going to point out and just say at the moment that I'm not sure that we're on the same page where Conte is concerned. I think I'm more optimistic about Conte than you are. As far as I know from the stuff that from your Tottenham walks for quite a while, I think I'm more optimistic about Conte than you are.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be here next season. I think he's gone. Yeah,
right, and I think he will, because I listened to Conte. And he's saying that he's proud. He wants to be here. He's happy working with the team. It's a project. It's going to take time. And I'm listening to him and only him, and I'm trying to ignore everything else. So from that perspective, we differ. But I am going to, again, go back and say I'm completely and utterly in the same ballpark as you when I'm listening to Gary Neville, who's not right all the time, but I'm hearing him say, we've spent the money. Conte's been backed. We're fifth in the table. We're 3 points off third. We're still in the FA Cup. We're still in the Champions League.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's
not as bad as it sounds, as people are making it out to be at all. We've had a run of a few bad results against some top teams. Yeah. And we need to sort ourselves out against the top teams. And yes, also I will acknowledge a shite team in Aston Villa turned us over as well at one stage. But we've gone through a rough winter. It is time to turn things around, and there's still plenty of opportunity for us to get back on the right foot, get into the Champions League positions again. We're not going to finish any higher than third, not a bloody chance of it. I'd be absolutely delighted and astounded if we get fourth, but it is possible. That's what we should aim for. Porro in, Danjuma in, and then maybe a third player if we're very fortunate, maybe even a Zaniolo. Get really bloody creative up front. Get absolutely outstandingly creative up front, and then get ourselves into a position where. And again, I don't mind if again we come away with nothing this season, but next season when we have Destiny Udogie playing out on the left, and during the summer we're fixing our centre back issues and we're getting a new goalkeeper. Next season, like, this is another stepping stone in a project. Conte
is what Conte asked for, right? He asked for 4 or 5 windows, didn't he?
Exactly. People are saying, like, but Conte. People keep going on about the stuff that, like, I feel like they're in their own ideologue bubble where it's like, oh, Conte is a coach for the now. He's not a coach for the future. He's not a project coach, and yet he's telling us he's doing the project thing with Tottenham. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why are we trying to stereotype him and tell him he's one thing when he's telling us he's something else? I am happy to just see some progress this season, and next season be in an unbelievable position. As I said, pointing out how incredible our team is going to look
But how does that look though with regard to ENIC, right? Like you, I know you're more sympathetic, more kind of apologetic, whatever. Like I am, I guess, considered that way.
Yeah.
But at what point does your patience run out? Like at what point? Because I think that's a reasonable question, right? Like at what point does Daniel Levy's refusal to do early January business, when the opportunity's there to get prepared all for the World Cup, come in and do what Chelsea, Liverpool did with Gakpo, like get that stuff, get the ball rolling early, because at the end of the day, haggling over 5 million quid, right? That 5 million quid that he's may eventually save by the 31st of January. Like if he got that deal done and just paid it up front on the 1st of January, like he may have been the difference against Villa. He may have been the difference against Manchester City. He might be the difference against Manchester City on the weekend or against Preston North End. And then at the end of the season, you tally up where that difference of January looking better than it does currently, what that could mean in terms of Premier League campaign financing, just by like the prize money that's available for the difference between finishing 7th and finishing 5th, even if you don't even include the Champions League, that pays for itself 10 times over. Right. So like at what point does Daniel Levy's, fucking frustrating negotiations, line in the sand, I'm stubborn. It's not negotiation. He's not a king. He's got this masterful PR. People call him a master negotiator. He's not. He's a stubborn prick who doesn't want to pay the going rate. And I totally get people's frustrations about him.
Yeah.
At what point, Adam, does your patience with ENIC run out? If we don't do the business in the next 6 or 7 days, and if in the summer we get through it and we don't have a worldie centre back, if we start next season with, more, maybe a stronger squad, but not a better 11, do you then pivot across to the Levy outside and go, you know what, you've run your last race with my patience? What does that look like?
Pivot to the Levy side at the point where we realize that we've reached the ceiling with Levy. I don't think we've reached the ceiling with Levy because we're still in a position now. Like all the things that he's done since he's been here have constantly moved us forward in certain directions that were better for us financially. I know no one likes to hear that. Everyone wants to see the progress on the football pitch, but sometimes you got to do the behind the scenes stuff to get us to the level that we need to be in order to compete with the Titans that we're playing against, the Manchester Cities, the Liverpools, and soon to be the incredible Newcastles of the world. These are the teams that we've got to be up against. And if we don't do the savvy thing financially, we're not going to compete. You can look at a Brentford and you can look at a Brighton and go, these teams are doing exceptionally well for the level they're at. Well done, fair play. But they're never going to win the Premier League. They're never going to win the Champions League. It's not going to happen. So for us to compete with Titan teams that are getting better and better every season, you have to lay the foundation. The foundation we have now is, as I've said for about 18 months now, is best stadium in the world, best training ground in the world, best financial stability, all these different things. And then once all those things are in place, what does Levy do? He hires Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte, as everyone knows, is the only one of 3 managers mentioned in the same bracket in the Premier League. He's in the same, even though he hasn't won the Premier League with Tottenham yet, he's still talked about in the same family of managers as Pep and Klopp. Right, this is a guy who's come in now under Levy's watch and told us it's still a project. We now need to get the football where it needs to be, and that's what he plans on doing. If we get to a stage where Conte fails because Levy's not backing him, if we get to a stage where things start to regress and we know, okay, you've laid the foundation, Levy, but you're not willing to do the next step and everything else that it takes from now on, then Levy has to go. But as things stand, Conte, for my money, and again, you're right, Sean, it's subjective, but Conte has been backed every single second he's been here so far. Yes, the caveat to that is simply that when Levy goes into negotiations, he's a stubborn SOB. And quite frankly, we should have just paid the 45 million for Porro already and gotten it done. But he wants a bargain. He wants to squeeze every penny. That's just the stock that he comes from. That's the way his mindset is. So he thinks that way. Okay, fine. That's the one area we need to give him space to be a prat. But if by the end of this window, we have Porro, we have Danjuma, and we have potentially Zaniolo as well. And then next summer, we have 2 new centre-backs and hopefully David Raya in goal.
Yeah.
We're going consistently in the right direction. I don't care.
Then you're happy, right? And especially so if you then go and get an FA Cup, right? I don't think the Champions League's plausible, probably. But the FA Cup, depending on how we get lucky, right? There a lot of luck comes into the cup draws and things. Then obviously that changes a lot of things as well. Jory, is there any? I heard you at the start. You know, you were saying like you're so sick and tired of them. Is there any way that you could be that your mood could be lifted back and go, all right, you know, like they're not perfect, but you know we're going in the right direction? Is it? And what would it take? Is it signings? Is it money spent? Is it backing Conte? Is it winning a trophy?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. I don't. They can own the club. That's fine by me. It would simply take for Levy and whoever else from the board to get out of the football business. Let Paratici, give him the check, and he'll find out with the manager who to buy, when to buy, and so on. I completely
you don't think that's happening right now?
Say what?
Just quickly, you don't think that that's the case right now? You don't think that Daniel Levy gets out of the way at all?
I think Paratici is putting together some kind of menu, and Levy is looking it over, and he's jumping over all the first choices usually, and it always ends up to just what's the bargain going in town, you know, and we'll buy players that we don't need simply for sell-on value, simply because it's supposedly the bargain of the day, whatever, and yeah, so we're not doing because Levy always wants to inject himself as the negotiator of the money. We're not doing that. And just like you said, you know, getting him in right away. What's the cost of losing those games? What's the cost of him not training a month with the rest of the squad? That's very difficult to quantify. If we miss Champions League the fourth spot by 3 points, you know.
Yeah.
Is it the Aston Villa game? You know, is it the you know, one of the other losses that we incur, or the same, you know, with centre backs? I mean, for my money, we would have lost at least 3 games less if we had one first choice centre back in the door last summer, you know. So it's impossible to quantify. And to be honest, I don't think it's a money thing, even though Levy is very stingy and all of that. I think it's an ego thing first and foremost. Levy fancies himself as the big business guy. I know these types. My brother-in-law is in banking. My brother-in-law has the phone number of both Levy and Lewis, and has done deals with both of those guys. So it's
I've met Daniel Levy 6 or 7 times maybe over the last 20 years, and every single time I found him to be like so like just disinterested and rude, and just the ego of the man. He's not a nice guy. Like he's not a pleasant chap, you know.
And even if he was not like these guys, as these kind of high street millionaires / billionaires, they are often quite big egos, and they fancy themselves as this or that, you know. And that's why I'm convinced that, for example, the chants in the stadium, Levy out chants, have a big effect, you know, because this is his crown jewel, you know. And if he walks into his crown jewel and he's belittled that's not gonna go down well with him, you know. So, but I am with Adam in the sense that I want our current project, our current status to continue progressing. I've seen progression with Conte, but I've also seen a collapse. I don't put that collapse on Conte. That collapse is our defense. Our defense has completely collapsed, and I'm not only talking about the back line, but it's mainly due to the back line.
Yeah, but what do you put that down to, right? So I made this point the other day on a Tottenham walk. Like, there's this element, I believe, of some people that want to offer Conte very little accountability. Right? It's either he hasn't got the players, he hasn't been backed, therefore blame ENIC, or the players are rubbish, therefore blame the players, which ultimately comes back to blame ENIC. But to me, like, I feel like there's a reason why players go out of form. There's a reason why players lack confidence. There's a reason why people, why players under pressure collapse. And it's not just down to lack of concentration. It could also, there's every part of it that could be a lack of clarity about what to do in the moment, where to do it, where they're supposed to be. If you're not going to align any responsibility to the coaching staff for those things, then I think you're giving a free pass to someone that gets paid £15 million a year. Like, he's paid more than anybody else in the entire football club because he's supposed to be an absolute, a top level elite manager that can figure out how to get the result. And to me, of late, I think that you have to say there is, yes, of course, you can't factor in Lloris flopping at the ball and putting it into his own net, right? But you can aim some level of the responsibility to the lack of positional awareness of players when they're getting ran at and go, why hasn't that been coached out? If you're Perisic, you should know your positioning in a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 role when someone's running at the ball. That stuff should be coached ad nauseum on the pitch, on the training ground, so that when it happens in the game.
I think, Sean, you put too much stock into coaching, and especially the thing about coaching is the better the player, the better the raw material, the more potential they have with the coaching. I think in terms of falling out of form, I think it's the other way around. Last season we were completely overperforming, and I know this as an Icelander. Every sporting success that we witness here in Iceland is on the back of this berserker, we're gonna do it, we're like a trance-like state that these players get in, and they outperform their actual ability. And they go into the quarterfinals in the world.
We're dismissing the value. So is Conte not worth £15 million a year then?
No, let me just finish my point, Sean. And what we always see here in Iceland is like we see the spike and we get the hope up and all of that, and then eventually they'll collapse because you can't sustain that. Their ability isn't at that level. They will collapse, and they will collapse below their level, and then they will correct themselves and get back to the normal level again. And that's what I think we're seeing with Dyer and Ben Davies. And
regression to the mean, right?
Has been.
Yeah, they completely shoot up and have a really big new manager bounce, if you like. And overperform and did it for a very long time, a whole season almost, you could say. And then they completely collapse, and they can't find it in themselves anymore. And then you have the back line now back to its normal, which is not holding up its end of the bargain towards the other players. Do you think that same argument you're making about the spike and the regression back, that could happen the other way as well, right? Like Tottenham's defense is so poor right now that it's not because they've suddenly become horrendous players overnight. I take your point that last season they may have overperformed. No, they go down beneath their normal form.
But they're beneath their level, right? So they can come back up to a better level as well.
Yeah, so the Icelandic curve is a really high spike and then a small spike below,
and then comes
below
back
the normal level, and then they get back to normal level again.
Yeah,
so
like a heartbeat.
So I think we've been in the below part actually lately, and we're probably getting back to what is a norm for these players, But so for me, it's not. It's like once that back line then goes back to this lower level, then the added work that puts on the rest of the team is kind of like it's a lot, And they understandably maybe a little bit fed up because the midfield is doing okay. I would say our midfield is kind of average, and our offense.
Last night, Bentancur and Højbjerg were abysmal for the first half.
I don't agree with that. Højbjerg's passing was abysmal. Højbjerg's positioning was great. Bentancur, I thought, was pretty good, to be honest. But in general, I would say, in the squad sense, I think we have a pretty average. Like if you take all of the players, it's like average, even maybe slightly above average, and then our offense is above average clearly.
Yeah.
Even though we've had struggles and all of that. But so we have a top four offense. We have a relegation, like statistically, we have a relegation defense, and our midfield is somewhere in between that. And that's, of course, asking too much of the front and the midfield also over a longer period. And this is where my big issue with the board comes. It's not about money. It's not about, this is where, just as like you were talking about, Adam, decent people, good people, responsible people. It's not decent to leave all of these players who believe in this, even if you don't, leave them hanging for a few quits, really, when they just need a little bit of support, and then they can get back to just carrying the team on the offensive part of it, So
okay.
yeah, and I like in terms of the goalkeeper and stuff like that. By the way, I completely agree. Raya is my first choice. I used to, before this season, Sanchez was my first choice, but I didn't know about the homegrown thing with Raya. So the homegrown makes it a no-brainer for me. We absolutely should do everything to get him in.
Let's presume that we get some of those guys in, right? Let's. I want to, because I know we got to finish soon, because we said 4 to 6. I know you guys have got things to do, so I just wanted to finish on some sort of a high note, or maybe a high, depending on how you feel. Let's presume that we go and sign Porro before the end of January, right? Let's presume that we get one other player in, whether it's a forward, whether it's a centre back, whatever, and we get 3 players in, and hopefully that's a bit of a boon to the confidence of the people, or the fans, whether you're ENIC in or ENIC out. And for what it's worth, I did put a poll up. There's been 75 votes saying, where do you stand on ENIC? And 56% of them, I know it's only a small sample, so get your votes in, guys, if you're still watching this and you haven't already. Of the 75 votes, 56% are saying they want ENIC out now. And the other percentage, 43%, 44%, are on some level going to give him more time. 19% says it's last chance this window to get something going for us. Give them until the summer, get 16%, and 8% of people that have voted, of the 80 people that have voted now, are still saying that they're ENIC in, they're okay, which is interesting. Keep the votes coming in. And guys, we've got 232 likes. There's still 260 of you watching. If you haven't hit the like button, just do me a favor. Let's try and get to 250 before we round off. I want to bring this back to this situation, right? I loved what you said earlier, Adam, about the fact that we're on the back end of a vicious run of results. Okay, we had the slip up against Aston Villa, a team that we should be beating. But, last season we had those results in February or March, I think, where we lost 2 home games on the bounce. Adam, I think you were actually over with me at the time. I think it was Wolves and Southampton. I think we lost 2 unnecessary, dropped 6 points there, and we thought it was game over.
For the Brighton game that we lost 1-0 as well. And that was
Brighton game,
goal, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, terrible result. But look, we've got through this little sting, and we've got Preston on Saturday. I hope that we all agree that we can get a result there. But then we've got Manchester City
a lot
at
of
home.
players rested as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see some change. I'd like to see Sonny moved out of the team. But for Manchester City, look, I know they're against one of the best teams in Europe or the world, but Manchester City, as far as I'm aware, have never scored a goal at the new Tottenham Stadium. So we have a good record against them. After that, we got Leicester City away. Then we got, obviously, the Champions League game, which is something to look forward to. But in the Premier League, let's focus on the Premier League. We got Manchester City. We have Leicester away. We have West Ham at home.
By the way, Leicester are doing very poorly.
Yeah, Leicester are in a real mess right now. We have West Ham at home, which should be a good game, but should be a game that we can get results from. I'd say normally that Chelsea is a very tough fixture, but I think that depending on whether they get their injuries back from Reece James, there could be a result there. Wolves away, we'll move past Milan. Forest at home, Southampton away, Everton away, Brighton at home, Bournemouth at home. Newcastle away, for me, is not until the 22nd of April. And that is the next game that I think, after possibly Manchester City, but I still hold a hope there. I think we've got a run of 10 Premier League games there, 8 or 9 Premier League games that are all winnable for us. Mm-hmm. And that if we get the right result, if we get a few players in, then I'm positive now that we've got through this backlog of difficult games. We're done with Manchester City after that match. We're done with Arsenal. We've got to play Liverpool and Manchester United back in April. But should we be positive that if we can get a run together and get some confidence, then we could go on and get a lot of points out of that series of games? Adam, I'll start with you. How do you feel about it?
100%. I mean, I know people think I'm naively positive, but to be fair, like I'm looking at the signs and seeing the potential for greatness, and I'm seeing an upward trend. I'm consistently seeing an upward trend. So I'm not going to look at the glass and see it half empty when we've been seeing positivity for the last since Conte's come in. And so I think that looking at those fixtures, yes, you're absolutely right. They're entirely winnable if we didn't get any new players in at all. They're entirely winnable with the team we have now. Never mind Danjuma coming in today, and never mind Porro coming in on deadline day, and possibly someone else as well. And then you've got to think about the fact that we were really unfortunately plagued with injuries for the first half of the season too. We had Sonny out with his face. We had Richarlison out, Kulusevski out, Bentancur out, Basuma not firing on all cylinders yet. If a load of those things go the opposite direction, if suddenly Richarlison comes out and he starts scoring goals, if Sonny can turn things around, especially if Pedro Porro comes in and starts providing service for him with crosses from the right-hand side of the pitch, there are so many things that have been going wrong and we're fifth. If any of those things start to turn around and our new players come in and give us some depth and some energy, we could absolutely wipe the floor with these teams the same way we did at the end of last season. And there's no reason to believe that's any less likely than us having another devastating half. And I say devastating because that's what people are making it sound like it is. It's not even been devastating. Again, we're still in the FA Cup, we're still in the Champions League, and we're fifth in the Premier League, 3 points off third place. So we have every reason to have the hope that kills you. But to carry that, That's what Spurs.
I think we could be. I think we could easily be in the hunt here, Adam. Mate. I think that Milan is beatable as well. Jory, how do you feel, my man? Is Preston North End the biggest game of our season on Saturday, or is it something we should be able to just get past?
It is for Harry Kane.
It could be. To be honest, I would want Harry to take a rest and get over the line against Man City. That would be epic. But no, I'm not too worried about Preston, and I completely agree with your take on the schedule as such. And if Adam is the naively positive one, then I gotta be the cynical negative one, right? And what's brilliant here, which tells me that what I'm seeing is quite right, because I really absolutely respect your views, Adam. I think you've got some brilliant insights, and we're coming to the same conclusion, which is we're not far from something really special. Where the great things can happen with just a few signings, in my view, and just a little bit more patience. I completely agree with Adam. Conte is calling for a project. Now we, the fans and the board, need to give him that project, and we won't regret it. I promise you, not one of us will regret it if that happens. So that makes me really happy. I mean, I'm most worried about the Milan game. These teams are difficult in their league, but they're especially deadly in Champions League. Like these, Milan is a Champions League regular and veteran, So, but we have the right man to solve that puzzle. We have a man that knows Milan probably better than anybody, which is Conte. Apart from a Milan manager. So that's good as well. And if we're getting 1 or 2 players in now, the mood in the dressing room is probably going to be lifted quite a bit, and a couple of wins and so on. Yeah,
I love it.
You never know. Yeah.
1 week left, guys. 1 week left of the transfer window. We can get 2, maybe even 3 more players in. Over to Paratici, over to the future Con, over to Daniel Levy. Do it for us, my man. Like, put some of these problems to bed. Go and sign a couple of worldies, and everyone can get behind it. Jory, Adam, I want to say thank you both for joining me on my reintroduction into the live streams today. Have you got any channels, anything you want to plug for the guys who'd like to know where they can find you? Adam, start with you. Jory, go first. Oh, whoever. Adam, you go first. Go on.
Yeah, well, look, first, guys, I just want to say again, congratulations to Sean for getting the channel back up again, and it's great to have you back, bro. And I will be your wingman anytime to butcher the Top Gun quote. But
Appreciate that.
yeah, no, it's great to be back on here with you. And I also just want to say to everybody who doesn't know, like, even if Sean hadn't been on here the last few months, I had taken a kind of a break from the Tottenham community for a while, simply because, as Sean knows, my dad had open heart surgery before Christmas, and I had to take care of him for a while. And I want to say a huge thank you to Sean and to Dave Harris from the Irish Hotspur as well, who've been who was always asking how he's doing, and he's doing great now, by the way. So I really appreciate everyone for that has been in touch, but especially you and Dave, Sean. So thanks so much for that. And my dad is doing really well now. You wouldn't even know he'd had the surgery. So
big up, mate. Great to hear, buddy.
So we're all the family's in good spirits, and I'm glad to be able to participate in these things again, man. So thanks.
Mate, we're doing it every day now, bro. Every day. I'm back 4 or 5 o'clock. Every single day during the week, at least, I'll be doing a stream. So everyone's welcome. Let me know. Reach out to me, guys, if you want to jump on, join into the WhatsApp group, anything else. Do you have a Wild Stag? There you go. Adam William Cahill at Wild Stag Media is is that the YouTube or the Instagram? That's Instagram, isn't it?
Basically, Wild Stag Media. You can catch me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also Wild Stag Productions on YouTube. And I really would encourage anybody who's got any interest in movies whatsoever. And Jory, you have to say there that you're into the movies as well. So please give us a follow, because my first ever feature film. We finished our festival circuit. We did really well on the festival circuit, but now in the next coming weeks, you're actually going to be able to watch the film on Amazon or on Google Play. So I'll have news about that in very, very soon, but it'll literally be in the next few weeks. This hoodie that you see me wearing all the time, these are 4 cartoon
that's awesome
illustrations of my heroes in my movie. It's an Irish zombie movie, Zombies versus Millennials. It's called Follow the Dead. So go to Wild Stag Media on any of the social media machines, and you'll be able to find out where you can check that out real soon.
Amazing,
Sounds
Adam.
Great, congrats.
Thanks a lot.
Very cool, mate. Jory, we got Jory VFX? Is that where we find you?
Yeah, on Instagram. Yeah, and not that I'm particularly, but I'm happy if people are interested in it's kind of like a behind the scenes account of my work, so I do
following you right now, bro,
in movies. Yeah, I'll follow you back then, Adam.
Nice.
Follow me back, bro. Follow me back.
Follow for follow.
Yes.
Love it. Jory, amazing, mate. Thank you for coming on. I don't think this was your debut on the channel. I'm sure I do remember you coming on briefly before, but mate, you're always welcome. Great conversation.
You'll have it for you'll announce you'll have the answer for that next time I'm on, right? When I debuted, actually. I also want to say, Sean, big up on your Tottenham walks. They're really good content. I really love that content.
I love waking up to that stuff. Seriously,
I appreciate that. Yeah, Bugsy likes it too. Appreciate you all. Jory, Adam, absolute legends. Come on again. Come on whenever you guys want. I'll add Jory. I'll put you in the WhatsApp group, of course. To everyone in the comments, thank you guys for stopping by. It's been amazing. I was a bit nervous, a bit like rusty at first. Obviously, I started off the stream on the wrong stream altogether. But I want to say thank you to Mr. Moondog for the super chat, to Dark Sun G for 3 super chats, for Philo for 2, and for William Kelly and for Spurs Between the Lines. I think that's Mia, I believe. Love you all. Thank you so much to everyone that contributed today in the comments as well. Hit the like button for me on your way out if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Follow these 2 guys on Instagram. And I'll see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK. I'm doing it with Jack. We're going to do the stack rank of all of the Premier League squads that we think, with your help, where we find out whether Tottenham are overachieving or underachieving based on squad strength alone. Guys, that's it from me. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. And as always, guys, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.